Donald Trump's political future now rests with the highest court in the land. The U.S. Supreme Court said Friday it will review Colorado's unprecedented decision to remove the former president from the state ballot, claiming he should be disqualified under the 14th Amendment's insurrection clause. It's a decision that could significantly impact this year's presidential election and puts the 9 justices squarely in the middle weeks before voting starts in the early primary contests. I want to bring in now Seth Waxman for a more legal perspective. He's a criminal defense attorney and former federal prosecutor. Seth, great to see you, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
All right, can you explain the significance of what the U.S. Supreme Court is taking on?
Yeah, sure. Them jumping into this fray is an incredibly important step given this election cycle that we're now heading into. And we should also point out that this is the 3rd anniversary today, as you and I talk, of the attack on the Capitol. And that begs the fundamental question of whether Donald Trump engaged in an insurrection or rebellion against this country. Now, myself and many other legal scholars believe that the Supreme Court may try to avoid that significant question and use what have been called kind of procedural off-ramps or procedural issues to avoid the ultimate question. So some of those procedural off-ramps may include the idea of whether Donald Trump qualifies as an officer under the 14th Amendment. And if he doesn't, then he would still appear on the ballot and would not be disqualified. Another off-ramp may be that this is a congressional issue and Congress should issue legislation to address who appears on the national ballot. And that's under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. But in any case, practically speaking, I find it somewhat difficult to believe that there are going to be 5 Supreme Court justices, 3 of whom have been appointed by Donald Trump, who will remove Donald Trump from this ballot, given that a large portion of this country certainly seems to want to consider him as president. And ultimately, what this may cause is a boomerang effect. While there's a lot of negativity in legal pleadings and in discussions about Donald Trump right now, if in a month or 2 from now, the Supreme Court issues a ruling in his favor, he will certainly wave that opinion around as his vindication and use that as a political platform to say that he did not engage in an insurrection and is innocent. Now, whether the opinion actually says that or not, we've seen Donald Trump go to that playbook before, and I expect that he would use it to his full advantage politically.
Meantime, Trump's lawyer spoke out on Thursday about how she expects the court's ruling to go. Listen.
I think it should be a slam dunk in the Supreme Court. I have faith in them. People like Kavanaugh, who the president fought for, who the president went through hell to get into place. He'll step up. Those people will step up, not because they're pro-Trump, but because they're pro-law.
Is that the way it'll be looked at? Or is it, her explanation kind of infers that there's an allegiance to the guy who nominated him to sit on the Supreme Court. And so there will be payback, so to speak.
Right. Again, this is right out of Trump's playbook, isn't it? We've done for you for years. Now it's time for you to do for us. We've seen how that's played out for the other people on the other side of that quid pro quo kind of an arrangement. Look at the Paul Manaforts, the Rudy Giulianis, the Michael Cohens. They've been left holding the bag. But of course, we're talking about a different environment here. We're talking about a lawyer for Donald Trump who is an officer of the court making comments directly to a Supreme Court justice, and that is wildly inappropriate. So, I don't see the justices, any of them, including Justice Kavanaugh, being moved by this at all. They are life tenured judges. So I just see this as more of an inappropriate comment by a lawyer who should not be making those kinds of statements.
And to follow up on what you said would be some potential procedural off-ramps, the whole issue of whether a sitting president is an officer, whether that person qualifies as an officer, that is going to be a primary argument that Trump's team makes. How will it be defined who is an officer? Isn't the presumption that the commander-in-chief, the president, would be an officer when he took the oath on Inauguration Day to uphold the Constitution?
Yeah, wouldn't it be an odd result if the Secretary of Transportation or the Attorney General is an officer of the United States, and if he or she were to engage in insurrectionist or rebellious activity, could be removed from office, but the President of the United States, the highest office, is somehow excluded from that analysis just because the word president isn't used in the 14th Amendment. So, as a textual matter, and that's what many legal scholars look at, is what does the text of the Constitution state? And it says officer. And if anyone was to ask someone in a plain everyday conversation, do you think the president is an officer of the United States? I think everyone would readily say yes. But of course, this decision hasn't been ever rendered before. The Supreme Court is the ultimate arbiter on this question, and they may use this to avoid the question of insurrection and could use this to avoid removing Donald Trump from the election ballot.
Fascinating. All right, Seth Waxman, great to see you. Thank you so much.